Well, welcome to our January 19th version of the 200 Drawing Prompt book. Today we're going to tackle Drawing Prompt 167. Drawing Prompt 167 is Titanic, and naturally we've selected the scene where DiCaprio and Winslet are standing out on the peak of the ship. If you want to see how we drew it, stay tuned, because that's what we're going to do today. Well, I told myself I wasn't going to do this, and that is draw that famous scene with Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet, where they are standing in the peak of the Titanic and waving their arms and stuff. I was like pretty self-righteous about it. You know, that's almost what you expect to see in a Titanic drawing. Keep it all in scale. I'm kind of starting with their feet. DiCaprio has his left foot on this railing here, and his right foot is back here. Standing on the railing. And his leg this is DiCaprio. And Winslet is about, she got that party dress on. A lot of trial and error here. If I can get anything in the right place, I can kind of build from that. See, they're not actually standing on the deck down here. They're standing on this first rail. So Kate Winslet's got her old time shoes on from 1914. And she got her feet together. And DiCaprio, he's standing behind her. He's got one foot on the bottom rail. And he's got the other foot. He's got the other foot over here on the bottom rail. Well, I just spent a lot of time on their faces, and I stood back and looked at it. Heads are too small. Got to start over. But that's okay. Because I'm doing this because gives me something to do while I'm drinking my coffee. If I was out of coffee, I'd just leave it. Okay, let's just draw in some egg shapes here. I changed the size of the faces. I also moved the hand from behind this scarf here. I think later in this scene, he wraps his arm around her waist because they're standing on this rail here balancing. And so he kind of holds her in place. And I don't know if this is, my filmography is right, but I think at some point DiCaprio puts his hand out too. So I've got his hand sticking out right behind hers. Well, I'm gonna have to go for the good enough, I think. I'm gonna do the background first. I was gonna put an iceberg back here, but I decided against it. They built the Titanic out of some faulty, there's several problems with it, but one of the things was they made it out of some faulty steel. Both the rivets and back then ships were held together with rivets. And the rivets and the hull plating were brittle and of poor quality. I mean, that's not unusual to discover that while you're in the middle of a project. The Brooklyn Bridge is the same way. They discovered while they were building it that some of the steel was faulty. But they had a big enough safety margin with the Brooklyn Bridge that it didn't matter. They, worked on some of the calculations and figured it out. But in the case of the Titanic, when they hit that iceberg, it just popped those rivets and opened that ship up like a can opener. Well, how in the world did he mess up? Well, he knew, because it had been reported to him over the wireless, the Titanic had Marconi's wireless telegraph on board. He had been notified that he was entering a he was entering an area with icebergs. And so there he is. It's at night. And he's been notified he's entering waters with icebergs. I mean, the icebergs have been spotted. It wasn't just a warning. I mean, it was a warning, not an alert. They had been spotted. Well, a modern seaman, and Titanic didn't have radar. This is way before radar. It hadn't been invented yet. When Titanic was the radio telegraph was the newest thing. So he had no radar. He's been told that there are icebergs, and it's night. He put on his his dress uniform and went down to the fancy dining hall, hang out with VIPs, and continued. I think they increased the number of lookouts. But they continued to steam at full speed. Well, they saw the iceberg, tried to turn away, and didn't quite make it. And the iceberg drug along its side, popping all those rivets. And the flooding started. Well, at first, of course, I didn't think it was, I thought it was manageable because the flooding was contained. The generator still worked, so the pumps would work. But after a while, it was clear to everybody that the ship was going to sink. One of my jobs in the Navy was when I worked in D.C. is I had to. One of my jobs was to write endorsements to JAG investigations. A JAG investigation is when something happens And then, like, there's an accident, somebody's killed, something's damaged. They assign an investigating officer, and they determine all the facts, and in the report, they say what happened, and then make recommendations. And my job was, then it went up the chain of command, and so my job was to at the command I was working at. My job was to draft our endorsement. We'd read the report, and and add our 2 cents worth. Well, I did several of those because I was in the Navy a long time. And I did some JAG investigations myself. I didn't just endorse them. But one of the things I noticed is that if anybody during the sequence of events would have spoken up and said something, whoever was in charge would have probably changed his plan. But inevitably, nobody spoke up. Nobody said, "Hey boss, this is a bad idea, we shouldn't do it. Or we need to do this." And that's what happened here with the Titanic. If one of the officers would have said, "Hey boss, we need to slow down to a dead slow, put some they already had extra lookouts, but maybe put some guys out with every searchlight on the ship, slow down to dead slow until morning." But nobody made that recommendation. They just went along with what the captain said. A lot of people, think that in the military, you just follow orders, and you do. But every officer I've ever worked for always got input from the crew. About what was going on. Well, I guess that's going to do it for drawing prompt 167. We added 2 new names to our list of celebrities that we've included in our drawing prompts, DiCaprio and Winslet. So our drawing prompt today was Titanic, and we did our version of the famous scene where they're standing on the peak of the Titanic with their arms stretched and all that. See what we got going tomorrow. Your favorite logo. Hope to see you then.